Okay.
Alrighty, it's August 20th, 2010. This is Marta Weston for the Sam Proctor Oral History Program in Perry, Florida, at the home of Mrs. Laura Scott Reaves. Mrs. Reaves, thank you very much for letting us come and visit with you today. I'd like to talk to you about your history as an educator. What was it about teaching that was so meaningful for you that you were a teacher for such a long time?
Well, the greatest thing I can think about, I loved people. I had a teacher named Sarah Roundtree, and she took up so much time with us. She would help us with our ABCs and everything. So I just loved school. I loved people. Miss Roundtree was my 6th grade teacher. I think when she took up that time with us, we were neighbors. We lived not far from her house, and we would have a chance to go to her house. And she took up a lot of time then. But when I got to school, she taught me in 6th grade.
And what was the name of that school?
The name of that school? What was the name of that school? They call it whatever they want to call it. I think they call it Perry Black School. I can remember that, and they were something like that.
Why was school so important to you?
Why it was important to me? I wanted to be like Miss Sarah Roundtree. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to dress like her, and everything. In other words, they would have you feeling like you're important, and you can be something great, and things like that. And most of the kids that you notice from the Gherkin School now, they're doing better than those that won't listen.
So the Jerkins School, which is here in Perry, or was here in Perry, that was an important part of the community, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And the parents usually worked together, and you had to do this. You ever heard of obeying? You better obey. And they made everybody feel like you can be great, you can do something. We have some great kids now, different places. So some out in Texas, we have Dr. Hughes out there, and we have one over here in just finished somewhere out there in Fort Lauderdale, and we have one that died in Washington, just working with that home demonstration agencies out there. He died last year. But when they tell me I'm retiring, I don't want them to retire. It seems like I want them to stay young. But one of them, Drew, told me one day, said, Miss Reaves, I'll be sitting in my next birthday. I'm ready to retire. I said, no, you can't retire. But a lot of them retired, though. A lot of those first children I taught.
How does it make you feel that students that you taught went on and became teachers and had good careers?
I felt all right, because first thing I did, I loved the parent, and they loved me. When I was out there at board, once a year, they would always give us something special, and have a special day for us. All the children loved us and different things like that, and it wasn't but 4 of us out there. And we just had to work out there. Finally, we had a superintendent named Alton Wentworth. Alton Wentworth, when he was superintendent, he came out there one day, and he looked around. He looked strange. I wondered, what? And she says, we're going to do better than this. And you know, the next week, I don't know where he got them from, but he sent us some school benches. We didn't have to sit on those benches with no backs on them. He sent them out there and got us to do them. And the next thing he did for us, he put lights in that school. That Mr. Wentworth was a good man. Not only that, he loved people. He looked, I knew something had gone wrong with him, the way he was looking. I know I hadn't done anything wrong, and other teachers had, but he was watching those benches with no backs on them, children writing in the lab, but he straightened it out.
Who were those other 3 teachers that were at the school?
Rasa Gaines, Rasa has passed on. Dorothy Green has passed on. And Charlotte Martin has passed on. Most of my schoolmates and teachers that I work with going on. I said, Lord, I get up in the morning, I say, you give me a long life. And I was still doing a lot of work, but here lately, it seemed like to me, I don't know, only I can put it, every year I get where I can do less. Get tired. They done sent somebody out here to help me now.
Well, you've had such a rich and long-lasting career. You've seen so many changes. When you were teaching and when you went to school, the schools were segregated. Blacks went to school with blacks, and the whites went to school with whites. What is your impression of that difference that the school used to be?
I didn't know no different then.
Yeah?
Not after that first term now. Mm-hmm. When that man told me that you can babysit. The city wrote and told us they had to close down Kerbo School. We didn't have a job. But when the government or somebody else came over, they had to send us a letter and tell us to come back. And then when I went back, he sent me on the yard and said I can babysit. And the next year, they had to send me to kindergarten because they didn't have another teacher that had certified in kindergarten education. And that's where I really got spoiled. Everybody, I loved them, and they loved me. They would do little things, you know. I didn't even have to sponsor a party. They had the parties. And when I went to my husband, when I retired in '82, she went to my husband and told him that I had taught all her children, and they were doing fine. And he said she was absolutely crying. I probably had told her that it was him, because I had at least 4 more years on my certificate. That would have had me working 48 years. But he kept saying he'd been in the Army. He had been collecting mail on the railroad track before they stopped that mail from coming to him on the train. Mm-hmm. And then he went to the post office and put in 27 years there. But he just kept on until Mama told me, if he said you're all going to get along good, you go and retire with him. And so I retired. But they didn't want me to retire. They gave me nice little packages and whatever. You see, the house is packed with so much of this, that, and the other. Now, it came from the different children and their parents.
Do you think that even though there was so much love shown at you at the schools when you retired in '82, back when the schools were segregated, what was it about the schools that were special to you then?
Special? Mm-hmm. Loving people. Mm-hmm. I love those little boys and girls. Mm-hmm. I love their parents. In fact, I didn't have to spank. You see, I think I spanked one child. That's when I was on the yard trying to teach her a physical ed. See, this little fella had a ball. He get the bat. He was a good batter. Oh, he'd bat that ball. Sometimes he'd bat it way out in the cornfield that was next to the school. When everybody was whining and crying, I want a bat, I want a bat. You say, you run. And he would bat it and they would run. But they got where they didn't want to do it that way. And I said, Gene, now you bat the ball and you run it. And you know, he turned around and told me something ugly. I said, Gene, I'm going to have to send you to the principal's office. You're not going to do anything else. You don't whip her now. I said, oh, my goodness. what is he saying? I said, no, I'm not going to send you to the principal's office. I'm fixing to carry you. And when I carried him to the principal's office, he was the most surprised little fellow you want to see. He was around 6th grade, almost tall as I was. I went to there and I said, the principal's name, Mr. Scott, from Monticello. I said, Mr. Scott, will you hand me that strap over? And he handed it to me. And I took that boy's hands and I worked that little part he said on real done. And I never had any problem with him out there on that ball field, sir. No, I whipped him good. And the principal was sitting there looking at him. Principal, he talked with me later. He said, you not afraid? I said, no. He wouldn't have done that had he been over at Kerbo. Kerbo was the name of the school we was working until they closed down. And we had to go to Lafayette High School. No, he wouldn't have done that. And so he thought he could get by doing it here, but I wanted to prove to him that he couldn't. He said, well, I'm one that appreciate it. So I had no more trouble. In fact, I didn't have no trouble with any of them. There was a boy there named a Bird. The family was named Birds. And he didn't think he needed to get his lesson. He got it when he got ready, and he didn't get it. And so when time to give him a grade, I gave him what he had earned. And he stood around and he cried. He cried, that boy cried. He said, Miss Reaves said, I know I treated you wrong. I know I should have gotten my lesson, but how can I face my daddy? I can't face my daddy with this grade. And he cried and cried, but my heart wouldn't listen. But when he walked out the door, he said, I'm going to kill myself. I could listen then. I went to the door and got that child and sent somebody and told the bus driver to wait. And I called him back in and I talked to him. He begged my pardon again. He says, I know I didn't do right. I know, but I can't face my daddy. I said, yes, you can. You go face your daddy because I'm going to keep this card. I'm going to give you some more work to do. I gave him some more work to do, and it was beautiful. I gave him work that he had to, those pictures and those islands and different things, he had to draw them and fix it pretty. That was a 6th grade class. So this boy must have been 12 or 13. But no more trouble did I have out of that boy. And I believe to this day, the way he was crying, the way he was begging my pardon, that he was going and kill himself to keep from facing his daddy. Because I don't know what Mr. Bird was like. But he said he couldn't face his daddy. But he got my heart, I can tell you that. We couldn't at first until he said, I'm going to kill myself. I don't know what that boy wanted to do. He might have done it, but I didn't take that chance. I took a chance of helping him. Oh, in other words, I had done the same thing. You remember in Gainesville when I made that failing grade in economics? My brother said, I wouldn't be begging you. I said, yeah, but I want my certificate. I want my certificate. I wrote back and thanked him first for what he had done for me and told him that I was sorry that I made this grade and will he give me some more work, please? I had it mentioned back to me. You know, I never thought of that until now. Yes. Well, I've had a good time in the teaching classes, even until now. And I think that Eugene was the only one I really had to set fire to. But now at the boys' school, a girl told the boy something ugly and he spanked him. I had to pull him off. And he went into and was beating on him and things like that. But when his mother came, I was combing the little girl's hair. She was still crying. And she looked at me and she said, Did my son do her like that? I said, Ira, she did it. And she said, well, he'll never hit another woman as long as he lives. So I don't know what she did, but I know I got him. And I had to hold him, he broke loose and got her again. But that time it was a nice little paddle on the bench there, and I paddled him off of her. And he ran home. See, the school was right in the community. He didn't have to do nothing but run around a corner and get to his house. That's the way it was out at Boyd. But other than that, I never had any problem with my parent at all.
Do you think that was good for the kids to, be right in the community where they grew up and have the school right next door? Was that the best way for them to go to school?
I would think so. I think community schools are good because we didn't have any trouble. Now, when they started some other, I don't know what they started, but anyway, they fixed it so they could have a meal at school. That put more work on us. But one teacher would fix it, a little sandwich or something. They started that meal program under Roosevelt, wasn't it? I think it was, because he started it that was shortly after the Depression, after Hoover time. Then that's shortly after that, Roosevelt got it, and he started that meal program. Well, we had something like sardines or something every day. Well, both of us didn't have to do all of that. I mean, we did together. Just like Miss Gaines, I told you, Miss Gaines passed on. And then we had Miss Allen was there, and Dorothy Green. And I'm telling you that we got along good. And when we come to Perry, sometime with our arts and see who could do things like this. And Perry sure wanted to beat her. But the one most surprising. Now what? I don't see the problem now. You see what you can do? You can keep them doing something. Like those little people up there in Lafayette, when I had to keep them until 3:30, keep them doing something. And every morning when I get there, they'll meet me and they say, what we gonna do today? Well, we would make our own glue, and we would have some Kool-Aid jelly to make juice. But now, you can't do these extra things like that unless you do this. You get it? And you get everybody got their lesson good. Didn't have any failures. All of them did good. Now I had one boy that couldn't do anything. And he loved to say, Miss Reaves taught me how to write my name. But his name he passed on, the little boy named Harris. He tried.
This weekend is the dedication of an historic marker.
What now?
This weekend is the dedication of the historic marker over at Jerkins High School. What memories do you have of Jerkins as a strong community school?
Jerkins. Well, Jerkins, we didn't have our girls messing up, whatever that is. We talked to those girls. Miss Roundtree, I think she was still teaching when I started teaching. But we would talk to them and let them know that some of the, in other words, we let them know they're supposed to run from boys. Yeah, no, don't let him. And then another thing, at the first starting of Gherkin School, we had the boys on one side of the campus and the girls on the other side of the campus. And sometimes those boys would bat the ball over there, run over there and get it, and then they'd pull somebody's ribbon off the head. but Professor Jerkins stopped that. I was there when Professor Jerkins was there.
So you knew him.
Yeah.
What kind of a man was Professor Jerkins?
Oh, my goodness. Great man. Professor Jerkins came here. We had no school. The schools, the first one out here, Spring Hill, burned up. Then they used the hall for a school down the street here, on this same street. And it closing of the Taylor County High School right in there. Well, it burned up. And then we had a green building. My parents bought the land, and the school board would put a building there. And they put this building over there, and we call it the Gherkin School. Well, it burned down.
You had 3 schools
And
burned
then,
down?
yeah, all of them burned. Well, now, Professor Jerkins was here. He knew what to do. Rosenwald. Y'all heard of Rosenwald? Yeah. He willed all his property, everything he had, to the black boys and girls. Now, he did that. And that we got the last thing that he had. When Professor Jerkins wrote him and told him that he was in a community the children didn't have a school, he wrote him back, or whoever was in charge, and told him that he had enough for one more school, probably 8 rooms and an auditorium. And that's what he gave us. But he didn't until Professor Jerkins got a name for the school. The school didn't have a name. I think I told you I could hardly tell you the name. No, we didn't have a name. Because the boys, black boys and girls schools, or whatever you want to call it. Well, anyway, when Professor Jerkins got the same lady, Miss Sarah Roundtree, Alberta, Lily Jones, and some more teachers, I'm about to forget some of their names, to get together and get me a name for the school, and I want you to do it now, because I don't want them to change their mind. Well, Professor Jerkins, those women got together, and some wanted this, some wanted the other, but they all agreed, since he has gone to all of this work and working up here and getting us to school, we want to name it Jerkins High School. And that's how it got its name, Jerkins High School. Well, I was in high school somewhere around 9th or 10th grade when Jerkins came, but I soon left there because I needed about 4 more hours when Peggy, this girl I told you came from New Jersey, and got me to go with her and take the teacher's examination. I went the next summer, after getting enough credits to get from Gainesville to get my certificate extended, I went to down to St. Augustine. I had a chance to go to school and get my certificate extended then. Well, when I went down to St. Augustine, it was really nice down there. We had a teacher named Amy George Dennison that would get on that coastline and come every summer and live with us. Her name Emma George Dennison from the University of Boston. And that's where I got my methods in teaching from. All those little silly things we be doing. If you do this, we'll do this and we'll do that. Make your own glue, you make papers and you do your own drawing. And how we got them shapes, that's the first thing children would have to learn anyway in kindergarten. Well, we learned those shapes, and then we started shaping those shapes into things. Then after that, we got to get the letter business going. But anyway, that's where I got all of those little extra things to them. And you know, I started to write the lady in Tallahassee the other day. I said, if I do that, my sisters will have a fit. But it's this lady that I can't think of her name, but they had a name in the paper, and they had her school had failed. Did you read that about Tallahassee School? Well, there's something in there this week about it. Walk color with the small school and walked over to school in Tallahassee. Well, okay, I wanted to write and tell her. I wanted to come there and help her to bring that schoolhouse to her school next year. Because I know what Miss Dennison had meant in my life. Roundtree had me when I was little, but Miss Dennison got me after I was grown. Now let me tell you something. Let you asking me questions. I need a hush.
Oh no, I'm enjoying listening to you.
Well, Miss Dennison got me in there, and we had to take methods, general methods, and then we had to take a method course in reading, and all of those type of things. And then we had that mathematic. Now, when she got me in mathematics, I was pitiful. Because when she told me to go to the board with a very simple problem, like subtract, seemed like if I remember good, was to take 9 from something. Anyway, I had to take that I had to subtract that 9, but I did it in a way that it was wrong. I wanted to say carry, to subtract something and then carry over the, And she said, but you can't do that. And honey, she straightened me out about that number business. And it made me love numbers. Now that was just literally, I don't know what, I've been up there to visit my children, but I don't know whether she's still living or not. But I know she's pretty old if she's living. But she meant so much to us. And then another thing, that school lost its accreditation. And when it lost its accreditation, it was named Florida Memorial, Florida Normal. Well, it lost its accreditation. And you don't know what Florida State did for us? You want to know? Florida State says, I like this is education, whoever's in charge of. Colin English. Did you all ever hear Colin English? Colin English was superintendent of Florida State School at that time, when I was in the dangling. Well, anyway, she decided that he didn't want that school low. And they got together and they gave that school the money that it needed to keep its accreditation. Now, Florida State did that. And so that school went on and on until the President Sarah Blocker and President Collier died. And for some reason, this Baptist group got together and they consolidated Florida Memorial and Florida Normal. And that's that big school down at Miami now. So that's where it is. And the Florida Memorial just going down, I guess. Anyway, it's owned by the Baptist group. That's it. So my really work, that all that little funny stuff you do to little people come from Amy Joyce Dennison from Boston. And she'd come down every summer and spend a while in the dormitory and around and teaching her.
I just have one more question for you.
Okay.
And this is a question about when Jerkins High School closed. So I would like to know, do you remember where you were when you heard about Jerkins closing, and how did people react when they heard that Jerkins was closing?
Closing. Oh, but when I went out there and talked to them, that was the boat. I had retired there. I went, I just said, now, you know, I need to go. Because I can help those black boys, and I can help those others. But whatever I said that night, they liked it. But now when I first heard about closing, we had a teacher here named Proctor, and she came from Seminole County. She was the first physical ed teacher the board ever hired. You see, you had to do your own whatever you do with your children. It's something you call reset. Well, Ortiz had the children, the girls, to put on some kind of shorts. Well, one of the girls is a member of Church of God and Prophecy, and they didn't let them wear this, that, and the other. So she went to one of the missionaries and told her about it, that she wanted her to wear some shorts, that she wanted her to do this and that. And she was, in other words, she thought this woman was going to tell her, don't, you shouldn't, but she didn't. Sister Cooks told her, if that teacher think you should wear them shorts for your physical ed class, you get in them. Now you can put a skirt or something over you, like that. But they taught obedience. And we didn't have any trouble. Even those boys knocking the ball over there, running over, doing something they had no business, they stopped that. They didn't, we jerking. And then another thing, that you see these boys going around here with all that funny look, and the bitches way down there, showing their underclothes. Homer Smith wouldn't have that. See, Jerkins had gone on about 25 years, but he's buried here.
Homer Smith?
Mm-hmm. His son comes every now and then to visit his grave. His son is named Dr. Gherkin, and he's a doctor in Philadelphia. But he comes just to look at his daddy's grave sometimes. And the last time Johnny Bell told me that one came was the grandson. She had never seen the grandson, but they still go and look at the daddy grave, buried here. Well, Jerkins, the girls, they obeyed her. And I think I told you we didn't have girls making mistakes. No. And then another thing our boys need to know, that these rules and regulations that governs that type of situation is still in the law book. They didn't move them. Them boys can still go to prison. They can still do this, that, and the other. And now right there in Gainesville, when Jetty Merritt was principal, something happened like that to a girl and she had to stay home. The boy stayed too. He went home and got him a job so he could take care of whatever he done. So I don't know, Jetty Merritt passed on. He died. But we controlled them. I mean, they obeyed pretty good. We won't use the word control.
Thank you very much.
You didn't ask about the first at school.
Well, why don't you tell me about it?
You asked about my school. Well, the first school was out here in Spring Hill, out there where the graveyard is.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's where it was. And that first school was in a church. And it was one of the first schools that got burned down. But did you ever know why all this burning was done?
I was going to ask you that. Why did 3 schools in a row burn?
Well, and then this mill was in one of our 5th grade books. I found it. And when I found the mill, that big old mill out burning and swat, I went to Mama with that book. I said, Mama, look at here, they got to have a mill in the book. And so Mr. Burden and Mr. Swats had come to Perry. And when they came to Perry, they bought trained engineers, and they brought them in here from Louisiana. Well, we had one grace of people say, let this other race work on our farm, and we'll work in the mill. Well, Mr. Birch and Mr. Burden said, we brought our engineers with us, and they're already trained. N.L. Smith, Ike Hampton, James Malden, Cornelius Rhodes, and some more other names that I can't think of. But they brought them trained already. But they wanted them to move them, put them on the farm, and they wouldn't do it. And when they did that, that brought the Civil War of 23. I wasn't but about 4 years old then. But Mama said, when my Uncle Will and all of them was leaving this town, that I screamed. I wanted Uncle Will to get off of that big thing. I didn't know what the train was. I wanted him out of that. In other words, my brother and I was the only grandchildren. And we wanted him to stay here. We didn't want him to get on it with them other people. They all got on and they went on to New Jersey, where a lot of farming, a lot of farming going on in New Jersey. Yes, so they said that warm air from the Atlantic Ocean is the cause of having all that farm work going on. And they knew how to farm. So a lot of them left the company and left them people. And so they decided to call Washington, and they sent them troops in here. And things got better, got a lot better. But we still didn't have a school. And
you call it the Civil War. You called it the Civil War.
It was a Civil War.
In what way was it a Civil War?
It was a Civil War because there was a fighting in the county where they lived. Everybody lived and they were fighting. Some was running and some was fighting.
Did you said you were only 4 years old. Did your
About 4 because I was born in 1919.
Okay, so do you remember most of that, or are you?
I don't remember too much about it. I just can remember my Uncle Will. See, we were the only grandchildren. They took up so much time with us. I remember him in his arm. And when he gave me back to my mama and got on that train, I remember crying. And that's all I remember about it, other than being afraid or something gonna happen to me or something like that. Now, you were very afraid during times like that.
What made you afraid?
What am I gonna be afraid?
Why were you afraid?
Afraid of gonna burn your house down, burn the church down, burn the school down.
Who was doing all this burning down? Who was doing that?
Well, we had one group running and one group burning. So now I'm gonna let you figure that one out.
Well, I might know, but it'd be better for me to hear you tell me who was running and who was burning.
No, they might getting behind me. I talked with one of the ladies, Miss Glickman, that her husband was a sheriff here. And I went to this church over here, and she was a member of that church. They'd have church on Saturday. Well, she said something to me. She said, "Did you know Harry Scott?" I said, "My granddaddy." I said, "Who are you?" She said, "I'm Miss Glickman. Do you remember?" She called her husband's name. I said, I remember. I was afraid of it. And she said, "Why were you afraid of it?" I was just scared of it.
Was he one of the ones burning, not running?
No, I wouldn't say he was. He didn't. I don't think he was. I don't. Let's don't talk about that one.
Okay. We'll talk about something different.
Yeah, so many things happen. Right here, they talk about that Rose Hole, one of Rose Hill and then Rose up. Well, it's good now. You can say some good things. Did you know, don't care what you look like, you can buy wherever you want to live in Taylor County.
It hasn't always been like that?
No, sir. And it stopped with one of the men that was Judge Butler. Did I have a street over there named there?
Byron Butler.
Byron Butler. Well, what happened is they had a house on Jefferson Street, and this house was up for sale, and nobody bought it. Nobody wanted it. Then there came a race man wanted it, and they wouldn't let him have it. Something they called Ku Klux or somebody wanted to get in behind him. But believe me, when Judge Butler spoke out, them people quieted off. And did you know that man died about 4 weeks ago? He bought that house long time ago. And he lived on Jefferson Street. And he said, if you wanted that house, you should have bought it. Now, if you got some money and want to buy a house, you buy it anywhere you want to buy it in Taylor County. See, everything is not bad. And I think they're living all out here, and they're living wherever they want to live, if they got money to buy it. So, and they seem to be doing pretty good over there at that white school, too. But we have some children that have been taught the wrong thing, and this, that, and the other, and they don't want to obey certain other teachers. But these boys and girls got to obey them teachers. Like that, you read the dress code, and some of them was fussing about that. But when I went over there and got to the school board meeting that night, we haven't heard anything else about it.
Did you personally know Judge Butler?
I knew Judge Butler. Not, I didn't know about too much. I know Judge Murphy. Judge Murphy, my sister told him, said, Judge Murphy, Juanita, she told him, said, my daughter is finishing law in Miami, and you're going to have to introduce her into the bar. And he told her, bring on. Oh, he said, but when he got the letter that he had to do, he was so surprised. But he went right on and kept his word. Yeah, he's a pretty good fella. You heard nothing about it. No, he's a good fella. It just seemed like he wants some peace. And Judge Butler was kind of the same way. And we had, when we had the first undertaker put here, the undertaker then buried everybody, one undertaker. And he told the other undertaker that wanted to bury some people that he couldn't do it. And it kept on till they run him out of town. They run him and he went to live in Detroit.
What was his name?
But his baby cried, and he wrote the judge back and told him, I'm coming home. I haven't hurt anybody, and I'm coming home. My baby want me to come home. She cries for me. And that's the same name we got over in Evan's funeral. Evan came home, and when he came home, guess what he did? You don't know what Evan did? He plumbeted the town. That's the work he's doing in Detroit, Michigan. He came back in and hired him. And when he got the town plumbeted, they wouldn't hire him no more. He was a very old man then. But his son, Larper's company hired him to put the plumbing down in, his son, put the plumbing down at Boyd where I was working. He hired him. And there, of course, both of them, he's gone now. But the business is still being run over there for one of his grandsons.
Do you know the grandson?
Do I know him?
You know of him, but do you?
Oh, I know all of them. Mm-hmm. He had a big home down here, not far from that place I told you the school was. He had a great big home down there. 2 men burned it down. They burned up everything.
Now, you've talked about this burning. That's the third or fourth time. Who is doing all this burning?
Well, one group was running, the other group was burning, so I'm gonna let you
So I gotta
figure
figure
it.
it out.
No, you better not. They might get me tonight. That's what we were afraid of. We were always afraid. And most of the people moved up in here around the Peacock. You see the Peacock stove? It fell down the other day. There's a place open in town across from the old post office. That big building fell last year, but it was a Peacock store. Peacock, and then behind it, they had a great big hotel. And then there was Bloodworth drugstore up there. Bloodworth, and then a Cashware. His store was there. And then there was Vereen. Those people wanted peace more than anything in the world. And most of those people that lived in town moved up in this community where they wouldn't be far from them. Okay. Well, everything, they're good. Everywhere you go, you're gonna find some good people. Those people was very good. One of them was so good, she told Cordelia, quoted on that lodge, Cordelia's lodge, Herons of Jericho. She said, make all of your women herons of Jericho. A heron of a Jericho will not hurt anybody else. And they didn't. No, they didn't. They wouldn't let nobody hurt you now. But Mr. Schwartz kept that mill going, and things quieted down. My daddy didn't go nowhere. He said, nobody bothering me. I'm not bothering anybody. So he stayed here. They taught him to grade lumber. And so that's where I'm here.
Do we have time for more questions?
Okay, time out.
How's the day doing?
Well, we have 10 more minutes.
I'd be interested to hear more the stories that your grandmother told you.
My grandmother,
Mhm.
about school.
About anything, about the way the Old South used to be, or
For the only thing, Dad that died in 38 there somewhere down there, name was Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor loved her people so good until she told them to take her back up there and bury them where she was a slave. That was one thing. Now those people was good to her. When she died, they had to take her back to Sherman and bury her by those people that owned her. That's where her body is resting now.
where's Sherman?
And she was one of those that told me about told me about the county. She and Miss Cordelia had run away and hadn't come back. Well, this woman told me about Mr. Perry, the roads, no hard roads, and the farms, and all those type of things, and how people got along pretty good, she said. But she went back, and her body's resting up there with that people that raised her when she was a little girl. Her people so good until she told them to take her back up there and bury them where she was a slave. That was one thing. Now those people was good to her. When she died, they had to take her back to Sherman and bury her by those people that owned her. That's where her body is resting now.
Where's Sherman?
And she was one of those that told me about told me about the county. She and Miss Cordelia had run away and hadn't come back. Well, this woman told me about Mr. Perry, the roads, no hard roads, and the farms, and all those type of things, and how people got along pretty good, she said. But she went back, and her body's resting up there with that people that raised her when she was a little girl.
Where is Sherman?
Hmm?
Where did you said she's in Sherman now. Where is Sherman?
Sherman, 221. Go up there. Sherman is in Greenville.
Oh, it's in
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah. It's about 10 miles this side of Greenville.
Okay.
That's where Sherman is. And her body is wherever they are. We went up there. They all went and carried the body up there. And this man that this Elizabeth Taylor had nursed, he got his gun because he didn't know why so many people was coming in there. So naturally he'd want to be protected. But the same undertaker, Evans, ran ahead of him and said, Elizabeth is dead. And she want to be buried with her master and her mistress. Oh, that's my nanny. He said, that's my nanny. Bring her on here. And you know what? When everybody left, they had some meeting, whatever they had in their smokehouse. They gave them, everybody had to have something that was nothing but a jar of fruits or something like that. He gave his nanny something from up there. And they've been getting along good ever since.
Now, was it a surprise to hear to hear your grandmother want to go back to the plantation where she was enslaved?
Well, it wasn't a surprise because when my Aunt Sue, I didn't know my granddaddy had any people. My granddaddy was named Harry Scott. I didn't know he had any people. But his people right there in Monticello. Well, my granddaddy got sick. He had a stroke or something. And his wife went and asked the sheriff, say he had some people, but I don't know where they are. She said, what's the name, Vic? She said, well, the last time I heard that they were somewhere around Tampa or Bradenton or somewhere in that area. She said, I'll find him. That's what the sheriff Proctor said. And he found her. And she came home. And she told us that her mother was reared. In other words, she was a very old woman then. Her mother was reared on a plantation in Monticello. And her people was the Scott people. So when slavery and everybody became free, she left there. She had a mulatto boy. And that little mulatto boy was my granddaddy. And she brought him to Perry. And then she married, after she got over here, she married in Irving. And that's why the Irving children and the Scott children are kin. But I had a smart brother now. Dad was trying to teach me about that economics. He's a very smart man. He decided he'd go over there and find out what Aunt Sue was talking about. He went to the courthouse and they found it. And then after he found them at the courthouse, he decided to go visit them. And told him who he was. And it was so funny. He said it was the nicest people. I said, I always will believe that, and it was over there in Mayo was one of them. I told you that principal that sent me out to that nursing home, kindergarten room, was a Scott. But I didn't bother with that Scott stuff now. But well, that's what happened. My granddaddy came off the plantation in Monticello. And I don't see no reason to not like those people. My brother said they fine people. He went over there. He came in from California to see granddaddy while he was sick. And found Aunt Susan here. We didn't know he had a sister. One thing, granddaddy had never gone to school, but don't you fool with him with mathematics now. No. She'll get you. She'll tell us, you can't do nothing. You know so, this, that, and the other. He was the right man to have when you want to do arithmetic.
Where did he learn how to do math like that?
I guess studying, I reckon. And then I told you this superintendent that I asked for work in Taylor County was named Register. And when he found out I was a Scott, he wanted to know, did I know Harry Scott? I said, yeah. Then he said, well, Harry Scott nursed me when I was a baby. He took care of him for his mama. So there, well, I'm going to hate him. I didn't. The man gave me a job when the bus drivers act up when he didn't want you to ride where you wanted to ride on the bus. So I come home, and that's the first person I talked with was the superintendent. Dove Register on Green Street, just across 19 and about the third house is where I found him. Wow. And I had no problem.
Are we good?
About 2 more minutes.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll close then. I have some more questions for you, but we'll have to save them for another interview.
You said what?
I said I have some other questions for you, but we might have to save them for a different day, for another interview.
Okay. Yeah, about the school, I didn't tell you about it. I did tell you it got burned down, though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we can talk about that another day when you feel a little more up to talking about it.
Yeah, well, don't forget about that teacher, what he did for me out of Gainesville. Mm-hmm. And my nephew loved over there, the one I told you got drowned over there. Mm-hmm. Poor thing. He had, and you know, they presented his mother with that, with his certificates and things, right here in the church in Perry. And those kids was over here. I don't know how they got all that money to get over here, but cars and buses, they followed him right on over here, and they buried him out here.
What was his name?
His name was Robert Scott.
Okay. Have you ever been to the alcove?
No, that's been a good while ago.
Oh, it's been
about 10 years ago.
Okay. No, I'll have to double check something because there's a memorial in one of the businesses in Gainesville, and it was for a guy that drowned in the ocean.
Oh, it might have been him.
It might be him.
Well, they loved him.
Yeah,
He was working in the AAHP and a lot of. In other words, he's a worker, a church worker. He works everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and
That could be him then.
Yeah, that was my brother's son.
Well, I tell you, people have really great stories about him, and everybody remembers him very fondly.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, his mother got all those papers that he would have gotten. Mm-hmm. She had to go up there to the front. The president came, whoever he was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, now I went to that was Daytona Beach. I've never seen but one of our national officers. And that was Mrs. Roosevelt. Madam Bethune called her to speak at Daytona. And we all decided we would go, because it was the president's wife. We wanted to see her. And so we went over there. So I had a chance to see one. And that was Miss Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh,
wow. You know, other than that, I've never seen a national officer. You know, I've seen some of the senators now, but none of the presidents and their family.
Yeah, Michelle Obama came to Gainesville about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and did a big speech in the main plaza in Gainesville.
Uh-huh. Well, she's been down there to those places where that oil been. Went and swimming there barefoot.
Yeah, they sure did. They went swimming, didn't
Yeah, they can't understand her being that common, but I think it's nice to get with him. Mm-hmm. I want him to do one thing for me, though.
What's that?
I want him to talk about American children and the things that they did long time ago. Some of it could happen when I was in school, but I want them to go back to Sunday school and be taught moral values. And where you gonna get it from but the Bible? No, that's where you're gonna get it from. So when you'd be surprised if he speak out for it and want them to do those type of things. That a lot of these people, the children staying home, Mrs. Demps had something out there teaching girls, about taking care of themselves and things. And Carrie called her daughter, said, Miss Demps wants you to come to the church out there. She's teaching something. She said, do you all want to go? The girl said, no. I said, my Lord. She didn't have no business asking that girl that. She should have said, Miss Dempsey, come out there, and she would have gone.
Now, as an educator, did you always try to put values into your lessons as well as, you know, you're not just teaching arithmetic and reading, you're also teaching how to be a good person and things like that. Was that something that you tried to put into your lessons?
In my lesson plan, I wasn't obedient. No, I wasn't obedient. I did it. Okay, now let's tell you one of the main stories that happened. I had a little boy in the classroom, and we were teaching about, we had the red race, brown race, black race, white race. And it was on a poster up there, and we was talking about them, and then everybody loving them, saying good things about the person. Finally, we said, a little boy said, I hate my mama. I said, who? You hate your mother? And I got it. I said, honey, well, you hate your mother. What she? No, she just bugs me. I said, you mean your mother go out in the yard and get bugs and put on you? And you know that little fella had sense enough to tell me, you know what I'm talking about. She meant she aggravated him. Okay, now here's what happened to that little boy. And if I would say that now, they'd fire me. I said, you don't need to be with us, because we love our mothers. These children love them because they do so many nice things for them. What did your mother do for you this morning? Did she give you? She gave me some breakfast. What did she give you? She told me. She gave me, what else? She gave me some egg. What else she did? She gave me some meal. And what else? And you kept on till that woman had done 19 things for that boy. I said, well, you don't need to be with us, because we love people. And you know what? That little boy, I noticed him. We have a fence around the kindergarten. If you ever go by Mayo and look at that little building over there, it's a fence around it. He walked around that fence. He didn't play in it that day. I didn't know I had wounded him like I did, because if I had done it now, they'd fire me, because I got him. All right. The next morning, his mother was there on the job. She said, I couldn't get Donnie to eat supper last night. Every time I tried to get him to eat, he said, I didn't mean it, Mama. I didn't mean it. I tried to get him to eat breakfast this morning. He hadn't had anything to eat. He said, I didn't mean it, Mama. And I figured you might know something. I said, he knows something. Let him tell you. He says, I didn't mean it, Mama. All she could get out of him, I didn't mean it, Mama. And finally, when I knew I was getting on her nerve, I decided to tell her. This boy said he hates you. You bugs him, and she screamed. And the little boy wrapped right around her, and he screamed. I said, oh, my goodness, what are we into? Well, I get in that car and drive off with her nerves so bad. All right, I told her to have a seat at the desk, and I would call her pastor. I called her pastor, and he was there in a few minutes. And he got that little boy and his mother and carried them to a cafe somewhere, and they ate breakfast. And they got through. He came back after about 1 o'clock. She came back in there. He said, you don't know, I love people. I love my mama. And you know what? I'm going to be baptized. Because my pastor's going to baptize me Sunday. And I said, I ain't going to get into this one. Because I told her. Because when I went back, we had a glass office in there. And one of the teachers sat on one side and I sat on the other, where we can watch those little people if they got into anything or they needed us. Well, and he started telling them about what the pastor had told him about the Lord. And I love the Lord. And I'm going to join the church. And I'm going to be baptized. And I want you to be there to my baptism. And he went on, and I just let him have his way. Because there wasn't nobody to just bother me. I let that boy talk all the evening. And he was talking. Well, that Sunday, that next day, that must have been on Thursday, something happened in my family. and I didn't see him be baptized. And I told him, I had a nephew to get killed in Vietnam. His name was Darrell Scott. He got killed, and I just couldn't. I had to stay. I stayed home until the next week. I didn't go back to school that Friday. I didn't go back Monday. But when I got there, he had something to tell me. So, and then I let them have their little whatever they have in the morning. And one of the mothers sent me the Lord's Prayer and told me we didn't have to just say the pledge. We could say that sometimes. But if one of those little smart alecks that knew enough to go on with the pledge and different things like that, I'd be busy in the office, and if they had caught them, they'd have been doing. Yeah, I never did stop.
So you said that was the way it used to be, and now you would have gotten fired. What changed?
I would have.
What changed?
They wouldn't have let me work. I would have disciplined me. Some of the parents probably wouldn't have let them send me away, but they would have given me a good discipline. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing I saw my picture in the paper. One of them had stolen it and called me old ma'am. She doing the thing the way you help children, something, kind of stuff like that.
Uh-huh. And so what changed that made education so that there weren't lessons about values and how to be a good person? Was there something that changed, like a law or something like that?
Well, when we think about the Israelites, the Jews, our value system really came from them. You know that already, don't you? Well, if we're going to have it, you can do little things like the Mayflower. Now, you know, when that Mayflower docked on that beach up there in Massachusetts, you know that the first thing that man did was told the women to stay on the ship. He got on his knees and he prayed, and then he got out and went and looked for somewhere there for them to settle down. Now that happened. And then they started doing all things like that. And then some things I had believed in. What is that boy, Indian name? Cato. You know Cato? Mm-hmm. All right, what did Cato do? He cried. No, they stole him. I think they stole him somewhere. And they took him to England. And they raised him in England. So when he started worrying about trying to come home, they sent him back home. Well, nobody there where he lived. So he went over to an Anna Garrett, somewhere over there, and he lived with them. Then the message reached that too, that they had died. Somebody was living down there, and they was farming, and they was building houses. That was our group on the Mayflower. And he told that group of Indians, you go down there and kill every one of them. Ponto was with them. And when he got there, and they began talking English, and he could talk with them, he said, they do you no harm. They do you no harm. He saved them. You see, all of those type of things went on. Now, when I first started teaching, somewhere in 3rd grade, they gave me a book to teach out of. And you know I left that little book over there in my classroom. I wish I had it. It was a little history book of early Americans, and it was worth having. These children need to know it now. They need to go back to Sunday school. They need to be taught respect and all of those type of things. I was that's the only thing I can tell you I was very disobedient about. No, and they didn't bother them. If they had it, they'd have had their mothers to get with it. Mm-hmm. They'd have had to get them.
So times just changed. Parents stopped wanting you to teach values and things.
They bought the things from me. I told you, one of them bought me the Lord's Prayer on a record so the children could say it. And if they thought of a book, anything I needed it, they'd bring it. And I never had a party. We would always, when I thought they knew enough to have the ABC party, Miss Dennison had told me. Well, we had the dinner. Oh, I don't think we had a parent to stay home, not even my daddy. when those children had that ABC party. He said, I never heard of ABC. I said, why not? We had that ABC. And the next thing they all turned out to, United States Grows Up. Now I got that out of a kindergarten keys book. You ever heard of that one?
Mm-mm.
But it's a book, green book, kindergarten keys, and it got the story of early Americans all the way in it. And we learned those stories and things like that. And then we decided we would let America grow up. The mothers bought all the ribbons and put on the children. And the parents bought those breeches that you put them down in there, they wore them.
Mm-hmm.
And then some come help me in the art class and put them red hats and red sauce and made them sauce and all that.
Yep.
And we had those early Americans, the first group, and then we had a little girl smart enough to learn all of those names, and she called each one and they would come. And I mean, that place was black. But those mothers, they was everything to me. I loved them. And they loved me. And they did a good job of showing it. I have a quilt in there now. You want to see?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I'm going to step over this.
Miss Reaves, hang on for 1 second, please.
It's okay. It's okay.
I forgot I had it over
It's okay.
there.
I forgot too. Don't worry.
Yeah, we all forgot.
Well, I appreciate you coming down.
Oh, we appreciate that. We're going to see you again tomorrow as well. When you
Okay,
come over
yeah.
and give the speech, we'll see you then.
Yeah, I'll be over there and stand where you tell me.
Okay?
You said, oh, I'm supposed to present something.
Yes.
I wonder what I'm...
Yeah, you got to think of a lesson for everybody tomorrow. But I'm sure you're very experienced on making up lessons the night before. So.
Did he tell you what you were going to be presenting?
He told me, oh, you don't have to do anything. He said, but stand there and hand us something.
Yeah, okay.
He didn't say I had to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You just have to look pretty.
Oh, I have to dress up on it.
I guess so. Well, you look beautiful right now. I love your outfit.
Very nice.
You could wear that tomorrow and.
No, because I wore it today.
Oh, okay.
I had the prayer meeting today. I told you, I don't know how to talk to these children unless I try to put some type of behavioral pattern in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they listen. Most time they don't do what you say.
Oh, you have to stay on them, I think. Yeah. Well, I'd like to go back out and talk to you more about your grandfather and your father and how he built that house. We never finished the story.
Oh, finish the house.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about him building that house.
That was my granddaddy's on Main Street down there. This is my daddy here. He left us in 75.
I'm out here with you.
Is it raining out here?
Just a little bit. It's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just enough to mess up your hair but not your clothes.
Well,
So you were telling me that your grandfather left right after the Civil War.
yeah, he left. He didn't stay here, but he came back.
Mm-hmm.
He came back and went back to the same mill and worked. Yeah, in other words, thing has quieted down.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm confused. What was the mill? What can you tell me more about the mill? Like, what did
Gherkin
they?
Schwartz, the largest mill in Florida at that time. But this is still a big one out here.
Oh, down that road.
Yeah, that's right. That's a big mill. But this one is equally as big. It's the dead end of that street right there.
Mm-hmm.
Go across 19,
Okay.
and you'll be where the location was.
Oh, it's not there anymore.
No, that one been closed a long time.
Okay.
Well, that's where the men wanted some men to work at the mill and some work on in the garden.
See, I'm confused. Did the people who owned the mill brought a group of engineers from Louisiana?
They did.
And were those men meant to replace men that were already working there? Is that
That's
why?
what they wanted to do. And he told them that I brought my engineers with me.
Uh-huh.
But they still wanted him to move them black engineers and let them work and let them engineers go in the garden.
Oh,
All
okay.
this was garden and stuff around here.
Yeah. And you say engineers, are those people who work the land?
They were the men that worked in the mill, that handled the lumber, graded the lumber. They taught my daddy how to grade lumber. That's why he's known as a lumber grader. They taught him. And then a lot of people from Louisiana came in here. After they left from up there, still came in here. And, but the Army, they were afraid. They didn't know what the government was going to do. So they got peaceful, and some of them. And they did what the government told them to do.
Okay.
They let them go back home.
Okay. And how many years later was that they went back home? Or was it years?
Well, according to Mama and whatever she was saying, they didn't stay hardly 2 years. They didn't stay that long.
But that's a long time when you miss your family and you want to be home. You don't want to be in New Jersey.
We were home with Daddy and Mama. Daddy wasn't here then. He was out yonder, but he moved in town down here to Daddy in the district with my mama's mother.
Okay.
All us lived and packed in that little house together.
Oh, okay.
He left that big home my granddaddy had actually.
Oh, okay.
And then he started building this one. This one right here. And it was looking nice. It had a picket fence around it when he died in 75. And he rented to somebody. And he told me it was hard to run. He tore the fence down.
Oh.
He didn't tell us anything, just tore it down. Renters can do that.
Well.
And did you know, most times, whatever they decide to do, the government go along with renters pretty rough. Because this man that over there now, he's pretty rough. He just work all the time, Seemed to do anything like Daddy was doing it when he was there. Yeah, it's an old house now.
Is it strange to see other people living in the house that your father built?
My daddy? No. He's about the best one ever been over. He pays his rent.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this house still belongs to your family?
Yeah, that's our daddy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's his name up there on that bar. Yeah, Scott.
Okay. Yeah.
He bought this lot here for me from a man named Will Cummings. And that's after I got married and my husband and I decided to move over here where we'd be near them.
Okay. And do you remember Miss Christine Baines?
Miss Christine
Baines, and her last name is Holmes now.
Christine Holmes? You know her?
Marna did an interview with her a few months ago.
She did?
And she mentioned your name, and so that's why we wanted to talk with you, was to hear what kind of education Miss Baines got.
This woman? Well, she came during the time they was burning up everything. You had to live in a house or a church. And the churches got away, they were scared to let you come in there because they're scared to be burned up. And all kind of stuff like that. But it quieted down. And nobody bothered my daddy. He said, nobody bother nobody. Nobody got no business bothering me. So he didn't leave town. He stayed right on out here. But he moved from up this road down there on that road where he would be near the Peacocks.
Okay.
And Cashway, the Bloodworth, and the Glitmans.
Because those were peaceful people.
Those are the people that owned the town. And those are the people that wanted peace. And you got near them, but those that lived out, they did them in, killed a lot of them, and some of them left.
Oh, goodness. Did you know anyone that was murdered or that?
I was too little to know.
Okay.
See, I was about 4 years old. I was born in 1919, and this war was in 1923.
Okay. So it's generally thought of as a war here, that there was...
Oh, yeah, it was a war there. There's no doubt about that. The lady that one of them that died not long ago, died this year, named Beatty Williams. Yeah, and her mother She was 92, and her mother was one of those that talked with me about the town growing up and how they fished and all that kind of stuff and everything like that.
Was that a nicer time or was that it sounds like, when you think about going fishing and living life, like that, it sounds nice.
Fish out of that creek right back there. Dad'd go down there and get fish, and we'd have fish and grits for breakfast.
Oh, that sounds nice.
That's right here. There's 2 sinks down there. Now, it was one straight back this way. There's 3 of them. But the city decided that they'd fill the one up at the closing of this road here.
Oh, a sink meaning where the ground just falls in.
Yeah, well, it was water, and it runs underground, whatever it is. Yeah, Daddy, he'd go out there sometime and kill rabbits.
Oh.
Yeah, that phone company thing up there wasn't there.
Oh, okay,
All of that was wilderness, like they done growed up behind the house. All of that was like that.
Ah, so you guys had plenty to eat.
Well, we didn't starve.
No.
And I told you what that lady said.
What?
This lady said to Cordelia Cole, she told her, make all the women heroes in Jericho. One heroine won't fight another one. They won't do anything to you. And one of the men told another one of the men, make all of these men Mason. You've heard of Mason? Okay. Most of the men at that time, they treasured things more then than they do now. Seems like these men don't want to do nothing but wear their britches too short.
Oh.
I don't know what we can do about it.
But the Masons were a different group of people. They were...
I know.
What were they like? Tell me what they were like.
I can't tell you because I'm not a Mason.
Oh, okay.
You don't know much. I don't know, but one good deed one did. My husband and I went down this road here, and we went out to what you call Puckett Beach, Steam Hatchet. And we was coming, we was driving on down, and a man and his son was walking. And all of a sudden, he put on brakes down the road, turned around. I said, what's the matter? He said, my brother's calling me. And he went back and he picked that man up. I said, your brother, that man ain't your brother, that's a white man. He said, but he's my brother. He was a Mason. And he gave the Mason signal. And when one of them gave that signal, I said, guess the Lord not to help him, you better help him. So he went back and got that man, and he had one of those things that the Indians could throw, and he stick it in his side. And he didn't stop until he got that boy to the doctor's office, and the doctor treated him. And then he stood around, and he took that boy and that man back out there wherever they was coming from. That's what a Mason will do for you. You better not bother another Mason.
Right. It's a brotherhood, isn't it?
We need to get over to Jerkins.
Okay.
Go to Jerkins.
All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow as our keynote person who stands on the stage and looks nice. How's that?
Yeah, I had to walk from this place to Jerkins.
How far is that?
Oh, about a mile and a half.
That's a long way.
Yeah. And where Jerkins is a little further out than the school because the school was on 19.
Oh.
But that's where the school got burned down.
Okay.
That Rosenwald School. It was on 19.
Okay.
But we went on over to the school board. The parent wanted the land back. School board wouldn't let them have it. Because the parent had to buy all the land that I went to school to. And then when they bought some, they bought out there where Gherkin is now. That's the first we ever had. And that's the way it was. So that's Gherkin.
Yeah. There's a long history.
I was there about 3 years before I left and went with Peggy.
Okay.
We're going to look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time today.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
God
I've had
bless you.
such
God
a good
bless
time
you.
talking to you.
Okay.